Is Chisa free-to-play friendly? Let's talk about it. My name is Juice, and let's get into it. Okay, so the funny thing with asking whether Chisa is free-to-play friendly or not, look at the teams that she's attached to. I feel like that kind of answers the question in of itself. Obviously, there's definitely going to be free-to-plays that have complete negative status teams, but she's definitely not as free-to-play friendly as perhaps your average support, simply by nature of being a negative status unit. Now, is she actually a valuable pull for free-to-plays is perhaps a better question, because while negative status teams themselves are obviously not that budget-friendly, as they do ask you to save around their banners, and they do ask you to commit to their investment paths, that is something that a free-to-play can do. It just requires, once again, commitment. As long as you're willing to do that, you will be able to collect a full negative status team and maybe even be able to have their signature weapons and whatnot. And those teams do end up being very strong. There is definitely an incentive to have them, because whenever you do have the complete puzzle, they very much can cover you for that respective element. Now, with your limited resources as a free-to-play, I would say that Chisa isn't exactly the wisest investment that you could make. We'll look at this from both perspectives. First of all, if you're a Zani main, you have a very powerful free alternative in Spectra Rover. Spectra Rover is a really good third slot teammate for the Zani Phoebe team. Yes, this is with Zani and Phoebe together. You're able to use Rover as a replacement for somebody like Shorekeeper, and it honestly does really well. Spectra Rover has decent personal damage, is able to provide Spectral Res with his S6, has a short rotation, and all around has a lot going for him in this particular team. And that's a free character that everybody has, so because of that, it becomes a little bit redundant to pull for Chisa and invest into her whenever you have this perfectly good free alternative available to you, especially whenever you consider it's not just a TOA team, it's really good in Whimpering Wastes as well. It just covers you for basically every scenario, so because of that, you're able to save your Shorekeeper for whatever your other teams are, and then you're still able to have a really strong complete Zani team. So because of that, you're not really in need of Chisa. And if you're a free-to-play, there are definitely wiser investments that you could be making. She is such a niche support that you're not really going to be getting bang for your astrites here. You could be getting a much better deal by pulling for plenty of other units. And if you're trying to invest specifically into your negative status teams, then it's simply just going to be more efficient to pull for another wave band for one of your negative status DPSs. An S1 on your Zani is going to be more impactful to your overall Spectral Frazzle team. Otherwise, you'd rather invest those astrites into a character that's a bit more flexible or is able to round out your account more. You could even save it up for an S2 Shorekeeper, which provides your account a universal buff, because every DPS is then going to get 40% more attack from your Shorekeeper ults. Not to mention that rounding out your account's DPS roster more, if Zani is one of the few DPSs that you do have, could actually be a good idea considering how many resources it takes to get your Zani hitting the ground running. This is especially relevant when you consider that Zani is currently having a rerun banner and Phoebe is going to be having a rerun banner next patch, so people that recently got Zani are still going to be investing into her, and if you're wondering whether it's worth completing the full team core with Chisa, I would say that you could honestly pass on it and just use your Spectra Rover. And from there, just save for some more DPS characters so that you can continue building up your roster more. The issue here does not necessarily lie with Chisa as much as it lies with redundancy. There's just other options that are free, which is what makes it really hard to recommend Chisa in particular if you have limited resources. If you're a Cardathea main, I do believe that Chisa does become a little bit more favorable, as while Arrow Rover is strong, Air Rover is not exactly as strong for Carda as Spectra Rover is for Zani teams, so she's going to be a sufficient enough replacement here, and she will be a decent enough upgrade. Now once again, do I think that is an upgrade that's worth pulling an entire character for? I don't know about that one. And I'm once again gonna call redundancy here, especially because Cardathea sequences are quite strong. So because of that, she ends up being in this weird position where it's not necessarily that Chisa doesn't have any value. Let's say that you did somehow manage to land yourself both a Cardathea and Zani complete negative status team as a free-to-play. First of all, congratulations, and second of all, in that position, Chisa does end up being a pretty decent pull for you, because then you're able to free up Rover, use Chisa, and then Shorekeeper is still free for another team. However, generally speaking, if you're playing middle tower, I find that that's where you're going to be using your Shorekeeper, and you can get away with worse third slot teammates on the side towers. So I personally wouldn't be pulling a third slot teammate for side towers if you usually main these characters in middle tower. But either way, if you're just looking to complete the teams, irrespective of the whole tower thing, then yes, this can end up being useful for you. I will say that in Whimpering Wastes, that game mode has two sides, and you're still able to just use Shorekeeper and Rover there, and the same issue just keeps cropping up. It just keeps falling back into Roshia Syndrome where the character's fine, I guess, but you could just use the free character instead. I know this is all quite harsh to say about such a popular character, because I know that people do love Chisa very much and she's been highly anticipated for a while, but I'm just being honest when I say that I do genuinely think there are more effective investments that you can make into characters as a free-to-play. Now, if you really love Chisa, I don't want to say that she's horrible and that you're absolutely not going to get value out of her. I'm just saying that she, as a pull, isn't really the best investment that you could make as a free-to-play. There are most definitely better pulls that you could be making, and that just means across your entire account, not just in your negative status teams. Within your negative status teams, I personally would suggest just getting your DPSs more sequences. That is the main thing that I suggest over getting Chisa. If you're not getting her, just continue to do that. Your second slot teammates, while Shakona and Phoebe do have really good sequences for their respective negative status teams, it's still better to just get sequences on your Cardathea and Zani, so I would just continue to do that if you're investing into those respective statuses. And then as for the third slot teammate, I would say that it's just more efficient to get yourself an S2 Shorekeeper, because that's going to benefit every attack scaler on your account. It's not going to benefit Cardathea because she doesn't scale off of attack, but basically every other DPS on your account, or just character that deals damage on your account, is going to appreciate that. And that is a pretty big deal, and definitely more useful than Chisa could ever be. Now that is a pretty harsh statement, but I really have to drive home here that there is no shame in skipping Chisa right now, and if you're worried that she's going to become relevant very quickly in the new region, keep this in mind. Kuro Games always reruns characters very quickly after they become relevant, so unless she's going to become relevant for literally the next banner character, I wouldn't worry about it. They're just going to rerun her. Kuro has absolutely no problems whatsoever with taking a character that reran literally like 2 banners ago and just putting them on banners again because it would be convenient for them to do so. So don't worry about it. Kuro usually tries to keep this as convenient as humanly possible. Don't be concerned. I also just can't see a budget Chisa being stronger than the options we already have for third slots for these negative status teams. And once again, maybe she is going to be really good for a future negative status team, but we literally cannot comment on that right now, and if that does end up being the case, Kuro Games will just rerun her when it is her time to shine. So I don't really think that she is that free-to-play friendly in the sense that she is a good investment for free-to-plays, because she just isn't. You're not really getting a lot out of investing into this character if you have limited resources. She's not really giving you access to a ton of different teams. She is just adding on to a team archetype that is already very expensive to invest into as a free-to-play. I generally already say you should avoid negative status teams if you don't have the full resources to invest into them. So with that in mind, it's honestly even harder to recommend Chisa. Now obviously if you've already collected a full negative status team, or if you recently pulled for Zani and you're planning to pull for Phoebe on the next banner over, well then there you go. She might be worth it for you if you really want Chisa. But she is honestly one of the most comfortably skippable units that there is. And I will say that if you recently pulled for Zani and you're thinking of getting Chisa or Phoebe on the next banner, please don't make the mistake of getting Chisa first. Get Phoebe first. You really need Phoebe if you want your Zani to feel good to play. Yes, you can clear without Phoebe, but it's not going to feel good at all. Just pull for Phoebe. Do not make that mistake. So, with that in mind, Chisa's also just not really integral to negative statuses either. She's gonna be a nice little buff to them, but she's definitely not going to be anything that's gonna be integral to them. At least the way I see it, I feel like Kuro tried to put value stock in the fact that she's able to work in every negative status team, but that just doesn't really matter when we have more than enough alternatives to cover the amount of teams that we currently have existing, and then whenever that does increase, well, they can just rerun the character then. And even then, I just don't believe that a free-to-play is going to have 3 different negative status teams. Now, if it's all that they invest into and they really carefully plan their pulls, yes, that definitely can happen, especially with good enough luck, obviously. However, from a logical point of view, I just don't really see it happening. So I feel like Chisa is solving a problem that very few people have, especially not free-to-plays. So she's a bit of a premium pull, a bit of an expensive character to be honest to invest into, and while she can be comfortable to own in the sense that yes, sure, maybe she can free up some third slot teammates for you and she can be a minor upgrade, she's not really somebody that I would recommend to someone that doesn't really have a lot of resources at their disposal. Just save for a new DPS instead, or save for upgrades for your existing DPSs. I'd also like to present this as the perfect opportunity to save for Lahai Roi. This is a more than sufficient time for you to just save up for the next new region that's coming up. We haven't seen any of the new character designs yet. Maybe one of them is really going to grab your eye. And if that's the case, well then you're going to be happy that you skipped Chisa, a character that wouldn't really have had much influence of your account anyway. So even if you are really interested in Chisa and you're still really driven to get her, I would wait a little bit and just see what the new character designs are going to be. Hopefully Kuro Games reveals them during Chisa's banner. Maybe they don't and they do it during second half, in which case you'll just have Chisa by that point and the deal will be done. What can be done about it? It's fine, you wanted her. However, if possible, maybe wait it out a bit, see if Kuro does drop any news. And obviously, if you're somebody that's been waiting for Chisa since she was first revealed, don't let me stop you if you really love her. She's not some abysmal character that's not going to function in her teams. It's just a case where she's not really worth pulling for. Hopefully this video is able to tell you if her Chisa's free-to-play friendly or not. This has been Juice, signing out, and there's not much longer for you to go, Chisa waiters.